welcome back to Target Score Winnipeg, Season 3, Episode 1, season just around the corner. I'm Joey Slattery. That is Taylor Allen, who is coming to us live from a hotel room in Japan.
Yeah, I didn't exactly...
You've been on a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't exactly foresee myself, doing a CEBL Winnipeg Seabears podcast in a hotel room in Kyoto, Japan. That was never on the bucket list. But hey, man, happy to be here. Happy to be talking hoops. And I mean, and it only makes sense to be talking basketball now. I mean, right after the day after the Winnipeg Jets. This is when we're recording it, but the day after the Winnipeg Jets win maybe the craziest Game 7 in our city's history. So, of course, everyone right now wants to be talking basketball, Joey. No one wants to be talking about hockey or the Jets. Everyone is in basketball mode right now. So, totally makes sense for us, whether we're in Japan, whether we're in Winnipeg, to be talking hoops, obviously.
Well, the first thing I checked when they clinched the series was the NHL put out the schedule for the second round. There are no scheduling conflicts. So there's no conflicts with the Sea Bears. There's a game in between. I think it's the 15th they play, and then the Sea Bears open their season on the 16th at home the very next day. But yeah, interesting time for sure. But what have you been up to? Because last time we talked to you, you were en route to after the season of Target Score ended, you were right off to Asia, and you've been doing a huge tour. Actually, some gifts were sent back. I've got the Taylor was kind enough to send me was this calendar from New Taipei Kings, Jeremy Lin's team, correct?
Yes, Byron Mullins used to play for the New
Taipei
Kings as well. So there you go.
I'm a big fan. Crown the City. This is really cool. I didn't know what it was at first. My wife had to take it out and show me what it is, but these are so cool. Thanks for these. But I mean, you've now been a global traveler. You've been to basketball games out there. You've been to baseball games out there. You've been to pro wrestling out there. What's this experience been like?
Yeah, man. I mean, after the Celtics won the NBA title last year, every week I'd see you on the show and you're wearing, like you are now, of course, wearing a Celtics hat, Celtics shirt, probably your Celtics underwear. Who knows? Don't want to know. And it just became unbearable. It really did. So I was like, you know what? I just needed to get out of Dodge, get out of the country, get away from Joey and all the Celtics talk and madness. So yeah, my girlfriend Janelle and we decided to take 9 months to go explore Asia. And we're at the end of it now. It's 8.5 months in. We're in our 14th, which is insane to think about, but our 14th and final country, Japan, like we mentioned off the hop. And I mean, I could talk about it for days, but it's been incredible, amazing experience. Some lows as well, but no, it's been amazing. Got to see some pro basketball in Taiwan, some pro basketball in China. Got to see the meme team, the Shanghai Sharks play, so that was pretty cool. Korea, got to see some pro baseball in Korea, and if you're not familiar with the pro baseball scene in Korea, I don't care if you like baseball or not. Oh my goodness, that is like the best sporting event I've ever been to in my entire life. Like the fans there are just insane. Like a guy will hit an infield single, and the entire crowd will jump up and down like they just won Game 7 of the World Series. So it's incredible. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience. But I mean, Sea Bears are about to get started again. Bombers, Jets are in a pretty exciting time too, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, as fun as my last 8 or 9 months have been, looking forward to getting back home and diving back into the local sports scene, of course.
Before we move on with the show, though, I want to ask, we'll break it up because I think it might be too hard, but what was your favorite, because you talked about Korean baseball, what was your favorite venue or event in terms of, the games that you went to for basketball and baseball? Did you have a team that you thought really hit it out of the park in terms of the experience?
Ooh, good question. What was my favorite?
Because the Shanghai Sharks, you shared some stuff on Instagram. That one looked cool. The Korean baseball looked awesome. I can't remember what city you were in, but it's it even on video, which I'm sure doesn't even do it justice, looked like it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I am more of a basketball guy. And for years, I've always wanted to see as many different pro basketball leagues as possible. So it was really cool seeing a game in Taiwan, 2 games in China. I saw the Beijing Ducks play, and then I saw Shanghai Sharks play, and then now in Japan, I'm hoping to see a pro basketball game out here, trying to make that lineup as well. But my favorite one, oh man, I think it would have to be Korean baseball. Like if
Yeah,
it's a if it's a weekend game, the game will sell out. It doesn't matter that yeah, I went in April and there's still 100 games left to be played. Like it feels like playoff baseball. So there was this one game we went to is the SSG Landers is the team, is what they're called. They're based out of Incheon, South Korea, and they're playing on Sunday against a team from Seoul. So we get to the box office like 2 3 hours before the game started, and every single ticket is sold out, and I am absolutely devastated. So we're just like sitting outside the ballpark and we're just hearing how rocking it is. It's just electric. I'm like, man, I cannot believe we're gonna miss out on this. Like, this is awful. But I mean, there's no way for us to buy tickets ahead of time because they use different apps and whatever. It's very confusing. So I was just bummed. But then they had a promotion that day for Starbucks. It was Starbucks Day at the ballpark because Starbucks actually owns the company that owns this team in Korea. Because all the teams in Korea
okay,
that are actually they're owned by companies, so they're not called the Seoul Giants or whatever. They're all named after a different company, like Samsung, Kia, whatever. So,
so different.
anyways, after the third inning, this woman at the Starbucks booth said, "Hey, we had a bunch of because I was going around talking to everyone trying to get a ticket to this game, couldn't get one. So, anyways, go to this lady at this Starbucks booth and she said, "Hey, come back to me after the third inning, and if I still have some tickets here, I will give them to you and your girlfriend and my mom. My mom was visiting us at the time because they had a bunch of tickets for like these influencers that they were inviting to the game. So she said, if someone doesn't show up and I have tickets, you can have them." So sure enough, we sat there awkwardly for 3 innings, just praying that some Instagram influencer person wouldn't show up, and sure enough, three of them did not show up. So we got the tickets for free as well. So that was pretty cool. And got to go to the game. And again, it was a sold out crowd, like, no, probably 25,000 people. And again, it felt like a playoff game. The fans are electric. Like one half of the ballpark is all dedicated to the home side. The other half is all dedicated to the road team. And they have like this platform for both teams where they'll have a cheer master. So it'll be this guy with the microphone and he's leading a cheer every time their team is up to bat. And he has cheerleaders and mascots and they're dancing for every single player. They have different song for every single player. A guy will hit a pop fly, and it's so obviously going to be caught, and yet everyone will jump up and they'll be all excited, and then they go, "Oh!" They'll be all deflated when it gets caught. It's like it was obviously going to be caught, but whatever. They just have so much fun, and that's what sports should be. So. Yeah, us North Americans can learn a lot from how they do it over here in Asia. So yeah, I think Korean baseball. I'm now. I thought I was a Toronto Blue Jays fan, but now I think I'm more of a Korean baseball fan. So yeah, it's crazy what traveling will do.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, you've had a busy off season. As we were talking before we started recording, I guess my highlight was Cleveland.
Hey,
So you're
didn't
out
you?
in Asia, I'm out in Cleveland. It was cool. I'll touch on it just real quick, but the cool part was is we were going to visit some friends, and we were going to a Cleveland Browns game, which is actually the game we went to. Was the one where Deshaun Watson got hurt, which was
I was gonna
nuts.
say, hey,
Um,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah,
That's
it
one
was. But
guy
the
you could be
cool,
happy that got hurt because he's
well, there
decent no
were,
matter what.
yeah, no, people were certainly happy. That was probably the most like chaotic thing I've ever witnessed in terms of negative, or no, how would I put it? Positive reaction to a negative thing against your home team and your star player. And yeah, so that was nuts. But then I also lucked out because it was game. Actually, it was a game four. It wasn't the elimination game. I think it was game four. Yankees and Guardians. We got into the to the playoffs, some playoff baseball, which I'd never been to in my life. So that was really cool. And there was hope in that one. The Yankees ended up winning, but it was the game after Cleveland had come back to win the game before. So everybody was pretty spirited throughout the whole thing. But man, talk about like just the difference between playoffs to regular season. Not a single person was sitting almost the entire game. Like every time you look up, like everybody was standing for everything. It was really cool. But yeah, no, it was a good off season, busy off season for us and for the Sea Bears. So thank you for coming back. I know it's been a while. We started a little bit later this year, and if you're watching on YouTube, you probably noticed a few visual differences this year, upgrading the game, so to speak. And it's a big season for the Sea Bears, Taylor. But before we get into that, obviously, we got to touch on pretty big developments over the offseason. And I'm sure everybody is well aware by now. We lost Chad Posthumus, who was the captain, really the face of the Sea Bears. He was our first ever guest on Target Score, and was very gracious with his time. We got to know him really well throughout the years. Was just incredibly proud to be from Winnipeg, to be representing Winnipeg, and getting the chance to play professionally at home. Uh, yeah, it was a sudden passing, over the winter that caught everybody off guard. Just a sad, sad story. Sad, I don't know, not really story, just a sad moment for the entire community, basketball, Winnipeg and Manitoba as a whole. But it's crazy. 33 years old, Taylor. And what he accomplished over those 33 years is absolutely mind blowing. And not only that, like the impact that he had, every single uh, community event that the Sea Bears had, you can bank on Chad being there. And not only being there, a lot of times these athletes show up and, it's part of their job, right? And sometimes they're, a little laid back, and certain athletes, it might just be the show up and that's what you do. But Chad always gave it, everything. He wanted to be there. He wanted to meet the people. So many kids and adults alike who looked up to him physically and metaphorically, as he was 7 feet tall. But it was the impact that he had on the community and even this team, right? I think a lot of the success in terms of how they connected with the community, you have to give a lot of credit to Chad Posthumus, who really led the charge as a player who, cared deeply about the organization, cared deeply about basketball in the city and just the game as a whole. So it was hard. We talked about this and how we kind of approach this, and we've decided that, throughout the season, we're going to try and keep, as we get some of his teammates on and guys that have known him throughout the season to share some stories. His family's done a great job. And I can't imagine how hard this is, but being out in the community and just honoring his legacy with action, right? There was the Chad Posthumous Hoop Fest, which is apparently a revival of something that had happened for years. And this was the avenue to bring it back. There was like 500 kids there. I popped in. It was absolutely incredible. And it was just about fun, right? It wasn't about the fundamentals, X's and O's. They had dunk contests and, all these fun games. And, to me, that's exactly what Chad stood for. Great to see that back. That'll be an annual thing. There's been some bursaries with Basketball Manitoba. That'll be annual awards given to kids from Manitoba to pursue, athletics at the academic level. But just wondering, Taylor, for you, I mean, you've interviewed him many times. Is there anything that stuck out to you, with Chad? Any stories that stick out?
Yeah, and I mean, for starters, I mean, it's been, a few months now, and I still struggle to even process like how this could have happened. Still struggle to even really put into words how this could have happened, and just my thoughts on it and everything. Because it's just so devastating for, our province, the basketball community, his family, obviously, and just everyone that knew him and got to know him. But when I think about Chad, though, I kind of almost, in a way, don't even really think about basketball. I kind of almost think about more of him as a person. And one story I'll share is the first time I interviewed him. He was actually playing for the Ottawa Blackjacks at the time. I was just doing a story on him, his pro career, where he's at with it, and whatnot. And usually when you interview, it was a phone interview. 'Cause I think he was in Ottawa at the time or wherever he was. But anyways, but usually when you interview a pro athlete over the phone, you try to keep it relatively short, 10, 15 minutes, be respectful of their time and whatnot. But we ended up speaking for probably over half an hour, and he was more than happy to answer any question I threw at him, and whatever, even just talk. And then we finished the interview. I thanked him very much. And then, 10, 15, 30 minutes go by after we finished chatting. And he sends me a text, thanking me for the interview and saying, "Hey, if you need anything else or have any more questions, like, don't hesitate to reach out. Like, I'm here. Like, it's all good. Thanks again. I really appreciate it." And to the average listener, that probably doesn't seem like a really big deal. But Joey, I probably don't need to tell you this. 99.9999999% of pro athletes, when you speak to them, by the time you're thanking them for the interview, they've probably already have hung up on you. Never mind, send you a text, a follow up text after, thanking you for taking up 30 minutes of their time and then saying, "Hey, if you need even more of my time, it's all yours, man. Like no problem." I mean, that was just Chad. He was just a
Yeah.
really good guy, and I enjoyed all my interactions with him. I think any fan who got to meet him at a meet and greet would say the exact same thing. And when the Sea Bears was announced that pro basketball was coming back to Winnipeg, I mean, I think everyone kind of knew, like, okay, well, the first signing has to be Chad. Like, it only makes sense. And then I even think about when you and I sat down to talk about the potential of doing a podcast on the Sea Bears and the CBL. It wasn't even up for discussion. It was like, our first guest is going to be Chad. Obviously, he's like, yep, yep, okay. Anyways, moving on. And he was our first guest, and it was perfect. And he was so gracious with his time, and we had a blast with him, and whatever. So yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking that he's no longer with us. But again, like you said, in his 33 years that he was here, he made a massive impact in more ways than one, and on the court, off the court. And yeah, I think just what happened to Chad, and I also think of our good friend Ted Wyman with the Winnipeg Sun, who
Yeah.
unfortunately he passed away. Pretty close to when we lost Chad as well. And I think, sometimes when things like that happen, that's kind of a harsh reminder that all of us, to everyone, that, to send that text to that person you love, to tell that person how you feel, to book that dream vacation that you've been putting off for years because, it might sound cheesy, but like it's true. And again, you're reminded of that when things happen to these people that and care about, that, tomorrow is never guaranteed. So, um, yeah, uh, just what happened, just made me even more glad that I did, do this trip, just for example. So I hope, other people, maybe it kind of reminds them that, hey, I should, send that text, and again, do something that I've been putting off for a long time as well. But yeah, Chad Posthumus, man, I'm glad, the whole basketball community's been, doing so much to keep his memory going moving forward. And I'm sure that's always going to be the case. And obviously the Sea Bears, I'm sure they're going to do some lots of stuff this season as well, which will be great to see, of course. Actually, another favorite Chad story of mine that I have. Um, I think of the very first game in Winnipeg Sea Bears history. So here's the guy; he's the face of his face of the team, the hometown guy, whatever. He gets in foul trouble very early on in the game. The game is not going according to plan for Chad, and I'm sure he has a billion friends and family in the stands, and so he has to go to the bench pretty early on. And Simon Hildebrand checks in for the game for him. And then I think he came back into the game later, got another foul, went back to the bench. So he actually didn't get to play a whole lot that first game, or as much as he, probably was going to. And I think most people, every pro athlete says, "Oh, all I care about is the team and winning and whatever." That's kind of BS. Right? Like guys, like they care about their stats and getting out there and whatever, and especially in a situation like that when you're playing at home, first game, history, whatever. But I remember like visibly watching Chad. I'm like, man, like wow, Sam I'd be like so frustrated with how the game's going and whatever. But his body language was perfect. He was like the most excited guy on the bench, first guy up, high fiving everyone who when they'd call a timeout or there'd be a break or anything. And I remember, like I vividly remember watching this and saying to myself, like, okay, that guy is a leader. Like that is a guy you want to run through a wall for, knowing that, hey, the night's not going well for him, but like whatever, he'll check his ego at the door. He just wants the team to win. And again, anyone can say that, but like actually show that. Not many guys do.
Yeah.
But Chad did. And then sure enough, how does that game end? He ends up getting rewarded for, the tough start and whatever, and he scores the game-winning basket, the target time basket, and the place went absolutely nuts. And
Yeah.
so I'm so glad that Chad got that moment, that his family got that moment, that we all got that moment, because that's a moment that no one's ever going to forget. And yeah, there's been some cool moments in the Sea Bears history, the early history so far, but to me, I think that's still maybe their best, or one, easily one of their best moments. Absolutely. So yeah, that's a memory that I'll remember forever, and I'm sure everyone will.
So I've been asked that question just in general, right? Like your favorite Sea Bears moment, and that is still it. Like the first game and Chad scoring the winning basket. and then the run where he just runs to center, like it's like ingrained in my mind of like a still
Yes.
frame of him just like,
Yeah.
going out not really knowing how to celebrate, just so full of excitement in that moment. And even from, like a behind the scenes standpoint, so to speak, like doing the sidelines that game. I don't even remember. It probably was Teddy Allen that we had lined up for the interview if the Sea Bears were going to win. And then as soon as he hit that, we were in like I'm in the producer's ear, like, scratch that. We got to interview Chad post game for, local boy scoring the game winning first ever game winning basket. They're like, we're already on it, man. Everybody
Yeah.
knew what we were doing from that point. And, seeing the crowd's reaction, as they put it up on the big screen and, people sticking around to hear that interview and what he had to say and the excitement even through that was just, that'll be one of my favorite moments just in sports in general, right? In terms of the job. And as you said, in our jobs, we have a lot of exciting things that we get to do, and you're covering sports, and that one is among the top in general. Not just Sea Bears, not just basketball. It was a really, really cool thing to be a part of, and as you said, happy that he had that moment, and it'll be a forever an iconic moment in our city's sports history. And yeah, we're gonna miss Chad. He was more than a basketball player. He was a really good dude, and always had time for us and everyone, and that'll be missed. So we send our best, obviously, to his family and the organization that have been dealing with this loss, and the added responsibility that comes with it to honor him, despite this being already a huge season and a huge undertaking for the Sea Bears, the CEBL. In the city of Winnipeg, but we'll always remember Chad, and throughout the year we will be sure to share those stories and celebrate his impactful life, as short as it may be. Can't argue with the impact that he had, but yeah, it's we'll miss him. And the tough transition now to look ahead to the season, and this very new look team. Uh, Looking at the roster, this is nothing like the roster they had last year or even the year before. There's very few returning players, three returning players total. Um, Two of them started for the most part. Another one was Mason Bursey, who had some starting opportunities, but mostly came off the bench. Some key guys out. I know I got a lot of questions throughout the year. Is Justin Wright Foreman coming back? He is not. There's no more Teddy Allen. Even guys like Jared Ogabemi Jackson won't be back this year, and it's a very, very new look. Of the new players, Taylor, I was wondering if they were ever going to announce a guard signing at one point, because they started off with three guards, which was they first announced Emmanuel Acott, and then it was Alex Campbell, then it was Mason Bercier. So three guards returning from last year. And then they went with all their American or non-Canadian picks. So change this year. I'll just point this out real quick. There's no more international designation. So the last 2 years, the Sea Bears had the option to take an international player. So couldn't be from the U.S. and couldn't be from Canada. As you remember, Jelani Watson-Gale in the first year was that designation. They did not have one last year. So in the offseason, before the rule change, that was something that they were looking for, is maximizing those opportunities. But now it's just 4 non-Canadians. So it could be 4 Americans, and they've maximized that. And of those Americans, there is a center, a guard, a power forward, and a forward. Then you throw in Kyler Filowich, a Winnipegger who will be playing this year, who just finished up his NCAA. We'll get more into that a little bit later. But he finished his career in March Madness, which was unreal. He was in there with Simon Hildebrandt. He's a center. So this team last year, one of the biggest issues was they were one of the best rebounding teams in the league, if not the best, Taylor, but their field goal percentage was not great. And that was an issue they've had defensively. They gave it up a lot of points. They struggled inside against big teams. And this year, Mike Taylor in the offseason had said that this is going to be a team. They're not going the star route. They're not giving the one guy the keys like they had tried to do last year with Teddy and build a team around him. They are trying to build a team. I anticipate the playing style is going to be totally different, just even through the makeup of the team. But it looks like they've stayed true, or Mike Taylor stayed true as the general manager and head coach of the Sea Bears, to that offseason plan. I expect a much different, a much different style of play. I like the makeup of the team, but as we've learned, Taylor, sometimes a good team on paper doesn't translate on the court, as we've seen last year. So before we get into last year and the challenges that they had, just when you see the team and the signings that they've made, What have been your impressions so far?
Oh man. So I mean, this is the CBL. Every summer, every team in the league is going to look, relatively mostly different for the most part. So it's not so much that the Sea Bears look different this year, it's that they've completely went in a different direction, different strategy. Like you said, year 1, Teddy, you're the guy, you shoot the ball 30 times a game, that's all good, whatever. Year 2, Teddy, same thing. Oh, this isn't working, things aren't going well. See you later. Justin Wright Foreman, you come in, you shoot the ball 30 times a game and turn the ball over 7 times a game, and we'll see how far that gets us. Well, I didn't get them very far either. For this year, you look at this team, and I mean, yeah, there's a guy like Tevian Jones, for example. That's probably, their strongest scorer or one of them at least. But you look at this team across the board, it's going to be a committee approach. And I actually really like that. I think, these past 2 years, obviously they've been a little too reliant on one or two guys. But I mean, you look at this team now, I mean, there's about five or so guys that are all capable, more than capable of scoring, over 10, 15 points a game. And I think that's a good way to go about things because last year's team, I mean, they had their moments where like, okay, maybe they're figuring it out and they're capable of going on a run. But for the most part, I just found them a very frustrating team to watch. It was the Justin Wright Foreman show, and before that it was the Teddy Allen show, and I didn't think either one of those shows was a good show. Uh so I look at but at the same time, I mean, you look at last year's team, and going into the year, on paper, they were stacked. We were all praising this incredible offseason that the Sea Bears had. And, I think I said they were going to win 15 games. And of course, they did not win 15 games. So, I'm a little reluctant to sing their praises too much. But yeah, I do respect, though, how Mike Taylor, was able to put his hand up and say, you know what we tried these first 2 years, we had our moments, but I think we need to try something else. And yeah, it's kind of old school, and I kind of love it because I miss the big man basketball. Right, it's getting lost a little bit, especially in the NBA, of course. But I mean, you look at the bigs on this team. I mean, Simi Shitu, one of the best Canadians in the league. He led the league in rebounding 2 years ago. He just played in Greece. He's a hell of a player, hell of a defender, and he had a game against Winnipeg 2 years ago where he had, I think, 32 for Calgary, where he had 32 points and 15 rebounds. So that's a guy that they'll be very happy to not have as a thorn in their side anymore. Um, and then you mentioned the three guards that they signed off the hop, the three Canadian guys from bringing back from last year. I mean, even Emmanuel Acott. I mean, he's 6'7". He's not exactly
Yeah.
like and he's built like an NBA player. Like you look like the guy's wingspan. So I mean, like they are big. They are going to rebound the ball. They're going to give some teams headaches. Like they play good defense. Even their guards play really good defense. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Again, it's hard to really kind of predict how it's going to look because it's so different than what we've seen this team, their makeup be. But yeah, I look at this team and I'm like, okay, I think I see some potential, and I think this team's going to be a little more gritty.
Yeah.
Little more, they might win a little uglier, and I think that's totally okay. So yeah, and I think the way this team is actually kind of built, it's actually almost kind of like a good representation of our city, and I think it's a team that fans in Winnipeg are kind of easily kind of rally behind and whatnot. And we'll get into more of these guys a little bit as we keep going on, obviously. But yeah, overall though, I'm intrigued is how I'll put it about their roster.
I'll go as far as saying, I'm impressed in terms of, you touched on Simi Shitu. To me, when they announced that signing, because one of the other things, Mike Taylor's talked about in the past is the importance of the Canadian, right? Like having the top Canadians on your team, with the Canadian rule that there can never be more than two Americans on the court at the same time. So there's, stipulations that, sometimes they're overlooked. You're so worried about the big American star that you forget that, hey, like most of my team has to be made up of Canadians. So there's a bit of a war, in terms of trying to draw these guys to your market. And when I saw Shitu, that guy was such a problem for so many teams in 2023 when he played with Calgary. Right. I mean, I was so impressed with him, and he's only gotten better. I mean, when you say he's played in Greece, like he played at the top division in Greece. Like it's like Greece is one of the best basketball
That's a
leagues in
good
the
league.
world.
That
Right. I
is a
mean, he
good
had
league.
19
Yeah.
points, I think it was against Olympiacos. Like, what are like they're like the uh, uh, I
the
don't
most
know,
famous club
like
teams
one of the
in the
yeah, I
world.
don't know
Yeah,
what would be the equivalent, like the New York Knicks type, Boston Celtics, like those, like that kind of a team out there, right? It's
yeah.
if you ever get a chance, go on Instagram and look up this team and see what they're talking about. Crazy sport venues. See the passion that comes out of Greece with their fans, kind of like Serbia, but. Nonetheless, I mean, he's had an impact at bigger leagues now. I think his confidence is going to be higher. And here's a dude that can score, that can play defense, and it's just a scary interior presence, right? And if you're going up against teams like Vancouver, who's traditionally big, Edmonton's always been a problem. Like the Western Division has always had some good big men, and that's where the Sea Bears tend to struggle. Now there's no excuse. Not only do you have him as one of the best Canadians, but you've got some great Americans there too. You touched on Tavian Jones. They brought in Jalen Williams, not the Jalen Williams from OKC, but they brought in Jalen Williams from Grand Rapids, a G leaguer who's played with Jones. So these guys are actually a great duo with chemistry already. So not only are you bringing in new guys, to a new team, there's already an existing chemistry of guys that have proven they can do it at the G League level. The other thing you might have noticed, there's a lot of G League experience and summer league experience coming to this team. Not as many guys coming from Europe, and I think that's by design, just because of the structure of the G League schedule. So the G League schedule starts a little bit later. They're not as intense on wanting players back. A lot of the European teams want guys weeks, sometimes months in advance if they can, and are not very
And you don't know
forgiving
when
of
you're
the
gonna get
CDL.
them either. You don't know
Exactly.
when they're
So
gonna show up. Some of them miss training camp and stuff,
well,
so
they miss training camp, but even more than that, they leave early, right? Like look at
yeah,
Wencat
exactly,
last
yeah.
year. He had to go off, and he had a great season out in Germany. His team had moved up to Division 1, so they missed him at the most important time of the year, and it's no fault to him. That's just the way it works in Europe. So it's a bit of a gamble. So they're going with the G League experience, guys that play that North American style, are very familiar with it, and might or should be able to stay for the entire season, which had been a big thing for this team building, knowing they're going to be in championship weekend, being hosted in Winnipeg this year. They get a guaranteed spot into the West Final, so you're going to see guys that should be here throughout the season, barring anything out of the ordinary or crazy, whatever the case may be. The first test, though, Taylor, will be NBA Summer League. Once that comes around, are we going to have another situation where, like last year, like a Darius Day situation where they go off to summer league? I imagine that had been talked about, but we'll see how it works out once they move on into that part of the season. Are they going to stick around for that? But yeah, I'm very impressed with the lineup. I think the returning guys are huge character guys, right? You're talking Alex Campbell, all-time leading scorer, Canadian scorer in the CBL, hit 1,000 points in that dramatic season opener last year against Scarborough. I argued last year a lot that Mason Bercier, target time should be on at all target time opportunities, simply because the ball going through him, usually the right decision is made. He had taken a big step, in my opinion, last year as a professional point guard, being able to dictate the play and slow things down, right? Target time, especially for guys that have not played it before, there's that the hero that sets in naturally because you have a chance to win the game. And I always thought that, Mason Bercier was a guy that can work past that, right? Find the right shot. So I really like him coming back. He's a new father. So that, little added inspiration and motivation probably going into this year. And Emmanuel Acott is a star, right? I mean, he broke out last year. I think a lot of people, he's a quiet guy. You don't hear a lot about him. And I think even though he's from Winnipeg, a lot of people were hearing about him for the first time, or at least seeing him for the first time. And he is not quiet on the court. I mean, his style of play is explosive. I expect he'll take a step up this year. But looking at how the team they built around them, as you said, very big. They're going to be a huge team. They're going to have to bully some other teams around, and they have huge grit. Their last signing, Terry Roberts, played with the Long Island Nets. Taylor, his story is ridiculous. 2020, I think it was 2023, might have been 2024. He got shot by a stray bullet in the chest, was on a ventilator, and within the year returned to play professional basketball with Long Island, the Long Island Nets, the G League affiliate of the Brooklyn Nets, and has been an absolute impact player. I had a coach in Long Island tell me that they're a forever fan of him and want him to do so well just because of the impact he had as a character, in the locker room, on the floor, a guy that's going to give you full effort, a great defender, and just ball hungry, right? A guy that's not going to take his foot off the gas at any point in the game. I think he's going to be an exciting addition for this team. And it's from the sounds of it, could be a guy that might be their defensive specialist, so to speak, that can lock on their top guards and force some turnovers and some opportunities in transition, which was another area where the Sea Bears struggled last year as well. So, they've went out of their way to get guys that have experience, in terms of that are going to make this experience grateful, put the work in, guys that are going to dig deep and play as a team. I firmly believe that from what we've seen so far with the signings. But they've got guys that, can really have an impact in the paint. The rebounding still going to be important, but the biggest difference this year is that field goal percentage. It has to come up. If you're getting those rebounds, especially at the offensive end, you've got to be putting up 2 points, right? And building leads on this team. The other thing, Taylor, that I don't know how this is going to work because you can't predict this with a lineup, but how are they going to play on the road this year? They had one win on the road last, or
Can't be
did they have a
worse
win
than
last year?
last year, man.
Yeah.
Can't be
They
worse than last year.
if they didn't
That's
have
the
their
good
home
news for
schedule.
for the Sea Bears.
Totally, right? Totally. Like if you don't have that home schedule, I mean, you're not even in the playoffs last year, right? I can't see it being worse than last year, but it is something that I think early on, like you got to get into that mindset right away that the first game we have on the road, we have to win it. Just get that out of the way.
They were
Get
1
that
and 10
first,
for those that need a reminder. 1 and 10 on the
yeah,
road
right?
last year, including the
Get that
playoff
first
loss.
win. 1-10 last year, get that first one out of the way this year, just kind of eliminate any doubt that might have carried over from last year. I understand it's not the same team, but on the same token, from the fan base perspective, they're going to want to see some road wins, right? Give yourself a little bit of an opportunity to, you're going to play well at home. That's been one thing we've seen over the last 2 seasons, that there is a huge home advantage in Winnipeg. They've used it to their advantage more often than not, but you have to win those road games. And statistically speaking, you and I both know, Taylor, that the team that's hosted in the last 2 years since the Sea Bears have been around, it's been Montreal and Vancouver. Last year was Montreal. The year before it was Vancouver that hosted. Both those teams did not do well, right? Vancouver was last in the West, and they got their spot in the Final Four, the West Final. And then last year was Montreal getting their spot in the East Final, and they did not play well throughout the season. The Sea Bears want to flip that script. So it's, statistically speaking or history speaking, you can make the argument that this could be a tough year for the Sea Bears, as the teams that typically host this don't play well throughout the season. They want to flip that script. I don't think they want to depend on that Final Four spot. I think they want to go in their full momentum, knowing that we're not only here because we're hosting, we're here because we earned it, and you have to come to our house and beat us. But that's going to have to mean you have to play on the road and show that you can be that team anywhere, and that is going to add to that intimidation factor or advantage that you have at home, for championship weekend, at least in my opinion.
So, a few things based off of what you all just said there. Terry Roberts getting shot in the chest, then coming back. I think we have to have that guy on the podcast. I think that's safe to say. I think we'll have a question or
Yes.
two for that guy because wow, that is incredible, and kudos to him for bouncing back from that. That's amazing. Emmanuel Acott, you mentioned. I am so bummed that he got hurt. He signed a pro deal with in Poland, in Poland's top league this I guess I shouldn't say off season, but the CBL off season. But he hurt his foot and he had to come home and get a surgery and rehab and whatever. But after the year he had last year in Winnipeg, I was so excited to see like what this guy could do in a full, season overseas playing pro ball because it's funny when he signed last year with Winnipeg, it was kind of midway through the year or close to it. And I remember you and I saying like, okay, like that's awesome. Anytime you could pick up, a Canadian and a talented Canadian and especially a hometown kid, then it's never a bad thing. But I mean, like, where is he really going to fit on this roster? But my goodness, did he assert himself? And I thought there were so many games, so many moments where I was like, he's the best player on the court right now for the Sea Bears. And again, I've said this several times on the show, but the kid is built like an NBA player. He the wingspan, the athleticism, what he brings on defense. I mean, if he could just refine his game, he's good on offense, but if he could just refine his game a little bit on offense, like my goodness, he could, become one of the best players in the league. So it'll be exciting to see what he does this year. Yeah, moving on to the Sea Bears being guaranteed a spot in the Final Four. When we had Alex Campbell on the show last year, I asked him about this because when he played, I think it was with Saskatchewan
Yeah.
one year, he was on the team when they hosted the championship weekend. So all the season long, they knew that they were going to be in the Final Four. And I asked him like what's that like going into a season knowing you can go 0-20 and you're still gonna be in the Final Four. You're still, a couple wins away from becoming the league champions, even if you have a disaster of regular season. And he said, "You know what? I'd be lying if I said it didn't get in your head a little bit because it is a weird kind of dynamic." So that's going to be a storyline with this team this year. Of course, it's going to be awesome for them that they're going to be in the Final Four weekend, and of course, Winnipeg, we're the best sports city in the country, so it's going to be an incredible weekend, and the games are going to sell out. It's probably going to be the best championship weekend in the league history. But again, you have to go through 24 games knowing the result. Yeah, of course, they're going to say all the right things. Well, of course, the game matters. It doesn't matter that we got our playoff ticket punched and whatever. At the end of the day, the results of those games do not matter. What
Yeah.
matters is getting hot in that last week and becoming the champions. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they say, how it all shakes out this year because we haven't seen the Sea Bears in this position yet. It's their turn to do it. I love the CEBL. It's done great things for Canadian basketball as an exciting product and whatever. This is one thing about the league that I don't like, and I understand why they do it, and financially it makes sense and whatever. But yeah, I just do think it's lame that there is a team heading into each season, um, again, where they could be a train wreck and still make it to the Final Four. So it'll
I
be interesting to
totally
see
agree.
how that relates here in Winnipeg. But hey, man, the Sea Bears are 15-5 all time when playing at home. So you
Which
do the
is
math. I mean,
crazy.
like, it is crazy. So there's an okay chance that they could you know, be there on the final Sunday. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, again,
Well,
that's just kind of weird knowing every game you're gonna watch. It's like, okay, well, that was a big win or that was a big loss, but at the end of the day, kind of still doesn't really matter. But
here's what I'll say. I think the one thing that where the mindset might change with that is now you've seen 2 years in a row where that team made it but lost. Right? So even though you're there, you still have to win that fourth game. So as much as you want to get hot, there's no guarantee that you will, right? At the right time. And sure, there's the chance that you lose every game and you're in the final four and you end up going to the championship game. But that's not been the case in the last 2 years, right? When Vancouver hosted, they didn't get through to the final. And last year, Montreal lost to Niagara, who eventually won the championship. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get in. So I do think there is a little bit more of an urgency that, players have seen it now. Some have felt it and they'll be able to say, we have to play through this. And I look at, you look at the schedule. They open up the season at home on the 16th against Edmonton, then Calgary on the 23rd, and then it's a home and home. On the 25th, they're in Calgary for their first away game. So after the excitement that you have of those two home games, I think that third game is going to be pretty important because we know Calgary's not the venue that everybody's excited to play at. It might be, one of the worst venues, when they're playing at the Winsport Arena in the CEBL. It's a hockey rink. It's very bright. The atmosphere, as I've been told, is not and not in terms of the fans. I mean, like the atmosphere of the physical building. It's just not a great basketball atmosphere. So that would be a big game. Now you're looking at it. Okay, we've had two. Apparently this is going to be a record crowd for the home opener, right? So you're going to be playing in front of 10,000, 11,000, maybe 12,000 people or more. And then you got to go to Calgary in a small venue and find that motivation to win. Then they come back for a couple of games and then they're on the road again. But there's sporadic. It's a little bit sporadic in that first little bit where you've got your first 5 games are at home. Then you start seeing a little bit more consistent road play. And those, yeah, I mean, obviously you win those at home. I'm not going to say, there's any pressure there. We've seen the success in the past, but I think for those road games, those early ones, you got to get one or two out of the belt. And if you do win 2 road games in a row and take care of things at home, man, you're 7-0. That's a huge, you know what I mean? That's a huge start for a season. And as we mentioned, or you'd said, the 24 games, the season's extended this year. So there's 12 home games, 12 games on the road. And with those 2 games, right, there's a, chance to win more games, but also a chance to lose more games. You had a couple more, home games last year and a couple more road games. Do they still make the playoffs? Right, that might have been the difference. So I think there's that sense of urgency of the teams that have gotten there before without winning didn't win when they were there. So I think we have to set the pace early. The other thing, Taylor, is how much pressure is on Mike Taylor this year, right? He's in his third
Mm,
year of this contract.
yeah.
He's, had great
There's been some
success at
good, there's
home.
been some bad.
Yeah, there's been some great success at home, I think, and he's done a great job at building, that organization, getting out there, kind of, the Seabirds culture, so to speak. But at the end of the day, too, the results have been back to back losses in the two playoff games they played. They lost in both. He's 0-2 in the playoffs. One of the games was at home. The other one was on the road. And this year he's got championship weekend. Like, this has been the year that they've been gearing up for. And I'm not saying that they were throwing other years or anything like that. It's just that there's a good chance to have a historic moment, right? In Canada Life Center, where you could be win your first championship at home, in front of your home base, and with the championship weekend structure, it's hard to do that. It's hard to win in general, and almost impossible to win at home. So this year, I think, does that play a motivation factor for this team as well, right? Where it's like, we need to improve our record because, yeah, we're in the Final Four. But at the end of the day, when you're looking over, okay, what has been done over the last 3 years, that record's going to stick out, right? When you take away the championship weekend and all this other stuff, it's just, okay, moving forward, is this, you got to put your best case forward in a contract year, so to speak. So what do you think, even with Mike Taylor? Like, do you think there's any pressure there, or is this something that, is really on the players?
No, there's definitely pressure on Mike Taylor. I mean, he's the guy who builds the team and he coaches the team. I mean, in the CEBL, you live and die by your coach and GM. They have so much power and influence on your organization. And I mean, like I said, I mean, there's been a lot of good with Mike Taylor. He's really represented the city well. He really gets the importance of having Canadian talent on the team, or sorry, I should say, building through Canadian talent and the importance of that. And is involved in the community and whatever. And he's been um, someone who's been good to you and I dealing with. Always happy to answer our questions, whether they're easy or tough and whatever, or critical, whatever they may be. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you look at last season. Let's call a spade a spade. It was a train wreck. Like every week, they were losing a guy, bringing a guy in, and whatever. And Byron Mullins was, a bust. He's a guy with NBA experience, 7 footer, and that didn't work out. And the whole Teddy Allen debacle, and then Justin Wright Foreman, that didn't really work out. And then losing Darius Days, and then yeah, there's just like every week something was happening with the team last year, and then it gave us a lot of juicy storylines, a lot of things to talk about on the podcast. So it was great, but I mean, as an organization, though, it was just like after year one, just how strong of a year it was, just this reputation that they built, it just made Winnipeg seem like such an attractive place to come play. Then year two happens, it was like, oh, this was a letdown. So yeah, there absolutely is pressure on Mike Taylor. I mean, I'm not saying if they don't win the championship, they're gonna get rid of him because I think again he's a guy that I trust to run a team. But yeah, if they don't make the final at the very least, or if they again have a below 500 record, then yeah, it's going to be a conversation where people start maybe doubting Mike a little bit. But
Yeah.
again, in his defense, I mean, he like I said, he put his hand up and realized that the way he built the team the first 2 years maybe didn't work out so hot. So he's trying something different this year. And again, like I said, on paper, it's intriguing, and I think they're going to play a different style of basketball, and I think it kind of suits this league and suits kind of playoff basketball as well.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I mean, Mike Taylor strikes me as a guy that isn't shy of that pressure, right? I mean, it's pressure is privilege, as the saying goes, right? And this guy's been around the block. He's coached on the international scene. He's coached, professional clubs, and overall, he's had a great record here. And especially when you look back to that first team, Taylor, where we didn't know what to expect, and you can make the argument
They overachieved.
the first team overachieved,
They
you know,
overachieved,
and
and he
then
was a big
you
reason for that.
right?
Good
And then
coaching.
the next year was underachievement. So it's like, where's
Yeah.
that balance, right? I think the expectation's high. I don't think it's as high as last year because a lot of players on this team that were not standouts if they played in in the CEBL, right? In terms of, like, not like Teddy Allen status or Justin Wright Foreman status. But they're guys that are talented. We talked about how big this team is, but these guys can also stretch the floor too, right? I mean, you look at Jalen Williams, and there's some. You look at his highlights of what he's done in the G League. I mean, this is a guy that can shoot the three if he needs to, but he also sets up in the paint too, right? So they've got guys that can play make in the paint and set up their guards as well. I don't think it's just going to be forward centric, but it's got to be that It's like as you said earlier, it's got to be that team cohesion. It's going to be an effort by committee for that to work this year. The expectations are going to be high because it's the Winnipeg Sea Bears, right? I think that's the one thing, like just across the league, is that this is a team that people know it's a destination that guys want to play in, environment they want to play in. They've played really well at home. They've had some star players come through. Uh, Expectations are high because they're in championship weekend. I think the roster, if we compare to last year, is not as high simply because the expectation is there's a lot of unknown, right? For the fans that have not watched these guys play a lot, probably have only seen their highlight reels. But these are dudes that, looking at the roster and what they've been able to do with their other teams, just because they're big, I don't think you're just going to see them only in the paint. I think there is the opportunity to open the floor a little bit and get the guards more engaged. But it's just a matter of how it all comes together. It's going to be competitive. We haven't even talked about Kyler Filowich, right? Who's, arguably the most exciting signing for Winnipeg. We talk about another Winnipeg big man. He's kind of in that like Hall of Fame already of Winnipeg big men. You look at Todd McCullough, Chad Posthumus, guys that have gone to the NCAA, had success,
Dan
and
Becker,
now what's that?
Dan Becker played at
Dan
Colorado, had
Becker,
a
right?
start
Like
with the Indiana Pacers, and his daughters are superstars now as well. So
totally, totally. So, here's a guy that, he's well known in the city, coming off an incredible year. I mean, he was the MVP of his conference, during the conference tournament that allowed his team to get to March Madness in the first place. Got his got his viral moment with his underhand free throws, working with Rick Barry, the old granny shot. But that talking to him in his media availability, he said, it comes with it, but it's just it's a sideshow, and I'm more worried about putting the ball in the hole and getting some points at the foul line, and I'll do whatever I have to do to do it. Also said he
hey,
doesn't get chirped. I thought he would have got chirped more, but he said apparently he hasn't really gotten chirped for the for the underhand free throws.
yeah, and honestly, to his credit, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, we all know, was a horrendous free throw shooter, and Rick Perry like reached out to Shaq, offering like to teach him how to shoot underhand, granny style, and help him out. And Shaq told him, "quote I would rather shoot 0% from the free throw line for the rest of my life than shoot granny style." End quote. So kudos to Kyler, man. Doesn't care what people
Totally.
say. Doesn't care if people chirp him or not, and he's going to do his thing if it helps him shoot a
And we
little
can't
better from the charity
And
stripe.
we
So
can't
that's
forget, Taylor,
that's pretty
this is
cool.
his first pro year, right? This is the first pro contract
Yeah,
he's ever signed, right?
this is
So
true.
even the expectation there is like, you go from being a guy in the NCAA, now he's up against professionals, right? But he's got that local. I can see him becoming, that next face of the team. He's got that personality. He loves, Winnipeg. You could see it in his eyes and hear it in his voice during the interviews of how exciting this opportunity is for him to play here. He said it from last year, even before that this was something he would want to do, right? Is play professional at home, and he's getting this opportunity. But it'll be interesting to see how his role plays out in this one, right? I don't know if he'll be starting right off the hop. I haven't seen him play. We'll see what happens in training camp and how he stacks up with the other guys that have a little bit more experience. But they're very much in a good. They're in a good position with that. I think it's going to create some good, healthy competition at that role. Even in the guard play, I mean, we haven't even talked about it. I'm just going to go real quick. We don't have to get too into it, but their U Sports draft picks. They had Jeffrey James, who's a guard out of Victoria, national championship, fresh off that with the University of Victoria. Mason Krause, who is, star point guard at University of Manitoba, one of the best point guards in the country at the collegiate level. And then they got Brendan Amoya. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but he was out at McMaster. But you look at particularly at Mason Krause and Jeffrey James, they might see some floor time this year, right? Their guards aren't as deep this year. You've got four guards. They have four good guards, but you might have to see some one step up from that U Sports position, like we saw Simon Hildebrandt do, right? Which is not easy. And that's another thing. There's no Simon Hildebrandt back this year, and that guy's been a huge part of their offense, over the last couple of seasons. The back-to-back U Sports Player of the Year. So there's some challenges here. This team's going to look way different, and I'm excited to see how different it's going to look and who the players are going to be that fans are going to like that are going to grasp, right? Like I'm wondering who's going to be the fan favorites of this team and who are people going to latch onto. But it's going to be totally different. I'm really excited, but it's back to your point. It's going to be that by committee. I think that's going to be the key to success.
Breaking news, Joey Slattery. For the first time in Target Score Winnipeg history, we have some breaking news about the Sea Bears while we're recording an episode. Oh my goodness. The Winnipeg Sea Bears are bringing Elam ending innovator Nick Elam on board as Target Score time strategist. Uh,
I'm reading this
they've
now
announced that
on the fly.
the creator of the Elam ending, known as Target Score Time, will join the club as its Target Score Time strategist. He will work alongside Mike Taylor and the staff to analyze trends and inform late game strategy. Blah 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 blah. Blah. Interesting. Okay. Anyways, I got really nothing to add to that, but
No, that's
that's
crazy.
something.
The other funny thing too is like, it's target score for a reason because you often hear people call it the Elam ending, because he's the one that, as mentioned, innovated it. But yeah, this is this story. We should try and get him on the podcast because the story that
Yeah,
I've
that'd
heard is
actually
that
be a good story.
this was basically the Elam ending was developed on a napkin, right? And then it turned into this
All good
research thing
ideas
where
are developed on a napkin. All good
right, and
ideas.
then, so the story that I understand it how it happened was, why are we killing time dribbling out the ball? And they watched something like 300 games or whatever the number was and determined that it was the last 4 minutes was the like when games were close and the best games were within I think 7 points was the original Elam, and then they changed it for CBL rules. But I'd be love to hear how that came up and just the juice, I guess, that it's put into basketball. It's such a hot topic, right? Like the like going to the target store slash Elam ending. NBA's toyed with it in the NBA All Star game. I've heard talks of potentially bringing it in as an overtime solution. I don't know if they'd ever implement it full time, but G League has toyed around with it, so it's really kind of infused basketball, and basketball being that sport that is open to big rule changes, right? Like, even look in the implementation of the 3-point line and things like that, like how much they can make a big change to the game that can improve it. But I'd love to hear
The
that guy's
4 point
story. But
line
what's
in
that?
the Philippines. In the
I think it was
Philippines, they have
Antoine Walker. What's that?
yes, but in the Philippines they have a 4 point line. They just started using it.
Really?
So
I
there you go.
honestly makes sense. They're from so far back now. Why not throw it in, right? But it's just crazy. But you know what? We often talk about the psychology of target time, Taylor, and how much that can toy with people's emotions. I'm interested to see how the innovator, someone who innovated it, does the ideas from strategy come with it too? Is this a guy that has the upper edge on this uh, because he's created it or not? But it's interesting hire nonetheless. And yeah, that's crazy. You have the originator of basically the backbone of this league that makes it so much different. So pretty cool to have that association just in general.
Well, it's after midnight here in Kyoto, Japan, and I have a busy day of eating ramen
Okay,
tomorrow.
let's get
So
to our
I will
predictions.
end with okay. But
So
before we do that, I just want to give one little or say one little piece on Kyler Filowich.
okay,
Um, if there's going to be a fan favorite this year, it's absolutely going to be him. Fans are going to
I
have
think
an
so.
absolute blast watching this hometown kid play. And the second he makes that first underhand free throw, the place is going to go bananas. And honestly, like he's a hell of a player, man. Like, you know, Wofford, the school that he graduated from, they were the number 6 seed in the SoCon conference going in the conference tournament. They were not supposed to win that tournament, but he balled out, won them 3 straight games, got them to the big dance. And again, like no one had Wofford going to March Madness, and he in his final NCAA year got them there, his first time at March Madness. So that's really cool. And he was the SoCon tournament MVP as well. So yeah, he's a big time player. He might be a rookie in the pro basketball world, but like this guy's played some big basketball, some meaningful minutes, and yeah, I don't think he's going to be your average rookie. But yeah, like you said, ending things with our season prediction. Uh, Year one, I said the Sea Bears are going to stink. Excuse me, and they ended up being good. They exceeded my expectations. And then year two, I was ready to hand them the championship trophy before the season even started, and they ended up being a train wreck. So basically, Joey, whatever I say, it's going to be the opposite because I'm an idiot. But so maybe I'll let you go first then. So then,
You know
yeah,
what? I'm going to
since
keep it
my
pretty
opinion really
simple.
doesn't matter.
I'm going to take into account that they're hosting and the record that has come with teams that have hosted championship weekend. Uh, I'm going to assume they're going to win a few more road games and maybe lose a couple of home games as well, right? At some point, you're going to drop some games. I'm going to keep it modest. They don't need to end up in first. I know they're going to be aiming for it. I'm going to give them 15 wins this season. I think 15 wins is it would be like it wouldn't be a great season if,
15
with
and
the
9. 15 and
with a
9.
20 yeah, with a 24 game schedule. I think it's a strong schedule. The league is getting stronger too, right? We don't know what the other teams are going to look like. I think Edmonton and Vancouver are going to be trouble, possibly Calgary. But I can see them now. They're going to play every team at least once. Unlike last year where you didn't have teams rolling through town. So every team is going to roll through town this year. So I think 15 wins. Should be more, but I'm going to play it safe and say a 15 win season for the Sea Bears this year would be my prediction. Anything less, I don't think is acceptable. And yeah, anything more would be great.
Okay. Okay. I mean, 15 wins, there's so much parity in this league. Like literally anyone could beat anyone. So I mean, 15 and 9 on like
It's a
doesn't
good
sound
season.
like
It's not, it's, you know
that's
what I
a
mean? Like,
that's a very good season.
because here's the thing, they're going to be above 500. Right? And I think if they can get 3 games above 500, that's huge. Like that's what I'm saying is like it's a good season. If they do any more than that, it's a great season, right? Like now you're talking
Yeah.
about if you get to 16, 17, 18 wins, which I don't think is impossible, depending on how the other teams play, but you have to be prepared for the parity. I think this year, and that's where I'm like, if I can see, I think it's 15 would be a solid marker for them if for a good season. Get to 15 wins, you will be in playoff position nonetheless. And it means that you had to get multiple wins over teams in your division as well. So 15 wins would be my prediction.
Okay. Okay. I like it. This is one of the hardest leagues to predict. And I'm just saying this, of course, to, save my butt
Soften the
after
blow.
my yeah, from my two terrible performances that I'm coming off of. Because I mean, again, every team is so different every year. There's always so many players coming into this league that have not played in this league yet. So it really is a crapshoot. You really don't know what this league looks like until about the midway point of the
Yeah,
year, and even then, teams lose guys, bring guys in, whatever. So it really, if someone right now is telling you they know how it's going to shape out, they're full of it because no one knows. Not even the people in the league.
100%.
But with that said, you know, I'm going to go 12 and 12 because
You're
there's
going
so
500.
many
Okay.
going 500 because again, it's a weird dynamic going into a year where you already know how your season, you already know that you're going to be at that final weekend. A lot of new faces on this team, different style of play. It's going to take some time to figure out some new leaders on this team as well. So I'm going to put them down as 12 and 12. And no, that's not, doesn't sound like a very excellent season or whatever, but that's okay because as long as you get hot at the right time, who knows? Maybe there'll be a parade on Portage and Maine. Maybe a second parade. Maybe there'll be one before that this year. Just saying, from a different team, from a different tenant at the Canada Life Center. You never know. Winnipeg really got lucky, but
Hey.
yeah, I think 12 and 12 is what I'm going. I mean, I tried giving them all the praise last year, no praise year one. So maybe I'll just go in the middle this year, and this will be the year where I get it all right. So that's where I'm
My
going.
other prediction is when they hit win 13, I anticipate you getting another email from team owner to make sure you know that you were wrong on your prediction as well, David Asper, as he did in
Hey,
year one. So
I'm
there's
sure that
the
will
other
come.
prediction.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I also want to say bonus points if they can somehow bring back the Larry Johnson grandmama. Remember those ads where he like would dress up as a grandmother and then like own everybody on the court with the granny shot for
Legendary.
Kyla Filowich? There's a marketing opportunity
Oh,
there.
wow. Like
Bonus
that.
points if they can work that in and bring that back in a Winnipeg standard. So yeah, that would definitely cement him as fan favorite for sure if he's not already there. Training camp starts next week, so we will have some coverage going into next week. It starts on Thursday. That's where we'll get to know the players a little bit more, and yeah, we're gonna have a show every week here for the rest of the season. Taylor, you'll be back in a couple of weeks in Winnipeg. So enjoy the rest of your time out in Asia. And yeah, looking forward to getting the season started. It'll be a lot of fun. And we're excited to have you on board with us this season. So stick with us. Welcome back. The 2025 season just a couple of weeks away, and the Sea Bears will kick it off against Edmonton at home on May 16th. That's Taylor Allen. I'm Joey Slattery. We'll see you next week.